Welcome to Healing Honeys, the podcast for girls with big dreams trying to balance it all. I'm Louise Rumble, serial entrepreneur, type A overachiever, healing girly, and holistic wellness coach who also once got called the Jesus of modern dating. But let's get one thing straight. My healing era has never been calm. I'm talking savage dating stories, 20 cigarettes a day, daddy issues, an anxious attachment style, and an autoimmune disorder too. Today, I've spent thousands of dollars on healing and therapy, and now I'm here to guide you, love you, and laugh with you as I share my favorite tips, tricks, and rituals that have saved me along the way. With new episodes every Wednesday, expect girl talk, psychology, and the nervous system, as well as love, sex, and dating, wellness, fitness, and a little bit of business and spirituality too. So get in, honey. We are balancing healing, hustling, and life, and the best is yet to come. And if you're looking for ad-free listening or my somatic healing subscription daily devotion, just head over to the show notes. Now, let's get into it. Hi, my honeys. Welcome back to another episode. I'm excited for today because it's been a while since I really had that wake-up call of, oh my goodness, I need to share this with you. And I think if we just rewind a couple of years, that is exactly what happened when I first stepped inside the therapy room. And that is how this podcast was born. It was born out of passion. It was born out of excitement. It was born out of interest. There was no real driver behind starting this podcast other than just wanting to share what I was learning with you. And I guess that's been the common and running theme throughout this podcast ever since. But it wasn't until I looked into human design recently that I really had that oh my goodness moment once again. So when Erin reached out to me and asked if she could come on the podcast, it felt synchronous, if that is even a word. So here we are today. I didn't want to make this intro episode too much about me. I really wanted anyone listening to be able to understand how human design could apply to them. But this is really like an introductory episode to human design. And what I'm going to do next week on the pod is really go much more in depth as to how this has been so life-changing for me and why I've come up with this concept of energetic architecture that I think everyone needs to look into, everyone needs to understand, because it's really revolutionized my relationship with myself, particularly through a rocky and somewhat dark time for me over the past few months. So if you are interested in today's episode, just know that we're going to go so much deeper next week. I'm also going to give you ChatGPT prompts so you can do this yourself if you want to. Because honestly, I got so into this like 2 weeks ago that I was like saying to my boyfriend, oh my goodness, I should offer energetic architecture sessions to people. Like I need people to understand themselves the way that I now understand myself. But I don't know if that is going to be possible with how many of you listen and how long they probably take to put together. So next week, I'm going to help you understand how you can do it yourself. Next week, I'm going to help you understand how this has been so eye-opening for me. But today, it's an introduction to human design. And I'm really excited to take you there with Erin Claire Jones. I hope you love this. Please do reach out to me if you like human design, if you've had some light bulb moments too as well. My inbox is always open, waiting for you. But if you are ready to get into it, I am. See you on the flip side. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Healing Honeys. Can you believe that after nearly 4.5 years of doing this podcast, I have never, and I repeat never, done an episode on human design, which is crazy because you guys know I am into anything that helps you understand yourself better. And today's episode came about very synchronously, I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but recently I've been going through a big evolution and feeling called to look in different places and to maybe show up in different ways. And I found a note in my notes app. You know, us girls have a never-ending notes app. And it was of my human design that someone had sent me like 3.5 years ago. And I read this note and I thought, oh my goodness, this explains what I'm going through. And then 1 hour later, today's guest.
No.
Yes.
Wow.
Reached out to me asking if I would be interested in having her on the podcast. It just felt so perfect. It felt like divine timing. I knew that it was meant to be. And so today I've got Erin Claire Jones with me. I am so excited to learn more about her, to learn from her. So, Erin is a human design guide, an educator, and a teacher. She's also the founder of the Human Design Blueprint. It is literally amazing what she has built. We're going to talk about that later and how you guys can go and check it out. There's also going to be a code for you in the show notes if you want to go on that journey. But let's get into it. How are you today? How are you feeling?
I feel good. I'm in like a really full season of life. I think my book is soon to be out. I know by the time this airs, it will be out. So I'm just kind of in the last moment of, wow, this has been quite a journey. I'm excited for it to go be out in the world. And I have two young kids, so life is just a little bit crazy.
You are doing it all. That
Yeah.
inspires me because I sometimes feel like I don't know how I would fit kids into my life. And then I look at these amazing women that are blooming and achieving their goals and their dreams and doing it all. So I love to see that and hear that. And I'm sure that human design has been a huge part of you leaning into, being able to do it all. I know there obviously are sacrifices and there's different seasons in life and things ebb and they flow. But for me, and I've hardly stepped into this space like you have dedicated your life to, I would say, even just starting to understand about my human design helped me to understand how to flow through seasons and why I am the way I am. So, for anyone that's listening that has never come across human design or that they have, but they don't really know about it, maybe they think it's just astrology. How would you describe human design and the system that you work with?
So, human design is a system based on your time, date, and place of birth that reveals how you are wired to operate in every area of your life. Think of it as like your energetic blueprint, your operating manual. It's like this is kind of the code to like how you're meant to navigate opportunities and make decisions and navigate challenges that might arise more persistently. But it really helps us understand ourselves on a really deep level and also like know what to do with that understanding. I think what has drawn me so much to human design is that it feels equal parts mystical and practical. It's, of course, mystical, it's based on our birth information, but it's also incredibly practical. So it not only can make us feel very seen, but it gives us all these tools to kind of integrate into our day to day and businesses and lives in a way that can really transform them.
I love what you said about understanding ourselves because this podcast started by me live streaming my therapy sessions because I was just like, this has changed my life. Therapy has changed my life. But why did it really change my life? It changed my life because I understood myself as a result of what I'd gone through. And I feel like human design equally helps you understand yourself, but just in a different way. So I love that you use that concept of understanding. Now, am I correct in thinking that there are five different profiles? I don't even know if you call them profiles, but there's five of them, right?
Yeah, five different types we call them.
Nice. And I know that a lot of people are one or two certain types. So tell me about how, like, some of them are more frequent, some of them are less
Mhm.
frequent. And also, let's run through what those five profiles are.
Okay, great. So in human design, there are five types. Those types are manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors. If you want to look yours up, you can at humandesignblueprint.com. You will need your time, date, and place of birth. If you don't know the specific time, I would choose the closest approximate you know. And type is such an important part of our design, and it's also just the first piece. So just know that if you and a partner or a friend or a child share the same type, it doesn't make you the same. There's so much more nuance underneath it. So let's start with manifesting generators because that's you. And I'll go through each. So manifesting generators tend to be quite multi-passionate. These are my clients that are like, I have a podcast. I'm also a coach. I'm also like starting a dance studio on the side. Like they just cannot be contained into one box, and their career paths tend to look quite nonlinear. They also are incredibly fast. Once they're clear that something's right for them, they can make things happen so quickly and so powerfully. Because of that, they can sometimes kind of be disappointed in the comparatively low capacity of others. So, a big lesson for you is that others aren't necessarily meant to move as fast or do quite as much. And then I would also say, as a manifesting generator, like your enthusiasm is infectious. Like when you are genuinely excited by what you're doing, your energy is boundless and you're so magnetic. And so, staying really connected to kind of what feels satisfying and really letting that drive you, even if it feels selfish. Like I think so often manifesting generators think prioritizing their own satisfaction is selfish when it's like the most generous thing they can do. I'm curious how and if that lands with you.
Oh, literally everything. I mean, I'm also a Sagittarius. So I have always known that I'm like full of fire, always on the move. My sister-in-law always jokes like, oh, Louise has had 5 business ideas before breakfast. That is me through and through. I do work so fast and I get very frustrated with people that can't keep up. Like, I really have had to learn and understand that we are all different. And just because my mind works this way doesn't mean that others do. That has made it challenging for me to be a leader, I think, and a boss sometimes, because I just assume that other team members will function the same way that I do. But definitely with age, it's become more easy to really just understand how beautifully bio unique we all are, and that we all have our own different like strengths, I guess. And the thing about the non-linear piece is so interesting, because I would say, I mean, I have done everything. I started as a lawyer, then I set up a brand and marketing agency, then I set up a top 1% podcast, then I set up a healing subscription, and now I'm stepping back into the corporate world to work on a huge project in London, which is amazing, right? People from the outside are like, wow, you have had the most amazing career. But sometimes I feel a little envious of people who are on one track with one thing at the end of it, and they can go so deep. Like you, for example, you know what your thing is, and you can go hard and fast or slow towards that thing and just really build a legacy around one thing. And I don't have that. And I often joke that I feel like I'm in a pinball machine, like bouncing from side to side, which on the good days is amazing because I am so lit up. But on the bad days, it's really exhausting. And I guess this is a really interesting point to ask about that exhaustion, because am
Yeah.
I correct in thinking that if you are working with it's a profile, right? Not a type.
No, it's a type.
Okay, it's a type, not a profile. Am I correct in thinking that if you work with your type, that the energizing moments mean that I'm sort of on the right track? Like those give insights, right?
Correct. And like I would say for manifesting generators specifically, a signal you're on the right track is a feeling of satisfaction, where you're like, God, this feels so satisfying to do. I feel like so satisfied on the other side of it. It feels just like such a good use of your energy. Whereas to be off track, which is inevitable and happens at times, shows up as a feeling of frustration. There's a little bit of like resentment, dissatisfaction, like it's just kind of like a constant thread. And that really is the invitation to kind of sit back and be like, is this still the right thing, or should I engage with it in a different way?
The reason that my mouth is hanging open is because I always say to everyone around me, my worst trait is frustration. Like I just get very frustrated, and that's just so amazing to show me after this podcast. That just means that I need to take a step
That's
back
right.
and reflect rather than just like trying to push through, because I really think, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this. I think that in today's world, the way that manifesting has been commodified and packaged sometimes makes you feel like you just have to have a vision and you just have to go so far towards that vision. And what I have found is that actually sometimes that's not going to work. I need to go down another path, and then that path will take me down another path. So it ties into what you were saying about it being like very non-linear, but then sometimes they feel like, oh, I'm not manifesting. Like it's not as easy as everyone else.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have so many thoughts because I also want to speak to something you spoke about earlier. But I will say that like every type in human design will have a strategy, which is basically kind of how you're meant to interact with life. And so your strategy as a manifesting generator, this is also shared with generators, is about letting life come to you and just seeing what your body naturally responds to. What's so cool about this strategy is that where your body pulls you might be very far from where you thought you might be going. You know, you might be in corporate and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, human design, I have to study it. Or you might be, I have to go back to corporate. I never thought I would do that. But like, you're really here to kind of let your gut instinct guide you. And so you're not really here to have this like fixed plan that you're working towards. You can envision all the things that you like, but you're probably going to have a bajillion pivots on the way. And the thing that you feel like naturally drawn to, that your energy like cannot be helped but be pulled to, is the thing you're meant to follow. I want to speak a little bit also to the burnout piece and kind of the overstimulation, but I'm just curious, like, how does that feel true in terms of how life has unfolded for you?
Yeah, so true. And I have experienced burnout so many times because I think that I wasn't intuitively connected with my body, with my human design. And so I was functioning from my head, which I often find is like a very conscious place and often is very shame driven. So it's like, I have to do X, I have to do Y, I need to make this much money. So you sort of disconnect from the intuitive path that is maybe opening for you. you push down another path, and then that's when it ends in burnout. But
Mhm.
what I will say is, so 2 months ago, I accepted this huge job to open a incredible, I can't say too much about it, but an industry defining wellness concept in London. It was something I never thought I would go back into. My time in creating brands and launching brands, it was done. But I knew when it came back, and I've got goosebumps just talking about it, I knew that it was the right thing. And the last 2 months have been the most joyous months of my life. I have never been healthier. My skin, my energy, my just everything has felt so right. And so it
Mm.
was really interesting for me when you said, I can't remember what you said, but it was the opposite of the frustration piece. It was like, it's just easy and it works. And that is
The satisfaction.
exactly
Hmm.
what it has felt like for the last 2 months. And I've been saying to my best friends, like, I've never felt this before, this much ease. So it's really cool for you to help me see that that's like yeah, you're on the right track. Lean into it, flow into it, keep going.
Totally. And like allow it to change, allow it to like keep evolving. And I think, one thing I always check in with generators and manifesting generators about is how they feel when they get into bed. Because like when you know you're on the right track, you also often get into bed and you feel like delightfully spent. You feel like you left it all in the field. You're like, I used my energy in a way that felt so good, whether it was what I was working on or who I was spending time with or how I move my body. Whereas if you're using your energy in a way that maybe needs something different, you might get into bed and feel like a little bit restless. You might feel like
Mm.
depleted, but like in a really unsatisfying way. So I also, in what I hear you saying, is it also feels like this contentment of like, I just like am enjoying how I'm expending my energy so much, even if it's maybe not a world that I thought I would return to.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like so looking forward to next month and the month after that. And I'm going on holiday next month. And for the first time in 15 years, I will probably take a 7-day holiday to be with my family because
Mm.
the dynamics of my life are changing, where it's like, I don't have to just post all the time because something has changed and shifted. And yeah, it feels amazing. And on that manifesting generator, before we move on, is there anything else? You have these great swipe albums that it says, oh, if the manifesting generator could talk to me, this is what she or he would say. So is there
Yeah.
anything else that you think this design would say to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you all have manifesting generators in your life, which you do inevitably, I think the ways we can best support them are, not expecting them to kind of stay on the same path, like honoring what excites them right now, even if it is different than what it was 6 months ago. I think another way we can really embrace them is by really kind of carving out space for them to do the things they love, and not seeing that as like a superfluous thing, but as a thing that like makes things better for all of us. I think also manifesting generators, like at their best, they're like big, they're passionate, they're enthusiastic. So like I feel like also never trying to kind of like, yeah, not make them feel like too much. Like it is such an expansive energy to be around like a lit up manifesting generator. So just like appreciating that, even if you're jealous, even if they feel like superhuman, really kind of embracing that. I think also one way you can support manifesting generators is to give them options. Manifesting generators really do well when they are given things to respond to. And so for you, you might do better when somebody asks you, like, do you want to go to dinner here or here instead of like, where do you want to go to dinner? Or does this opportunity feel right? Like when you're posed questions in that very specific way, it kind of speaks straight to that kind of physical, visceral gut feeling. Do you feel that?
Oh, if my boyfriend was here, he would be like, yes, she is very bad at deciding where to go to dinner. I'm the classic, like, I don't know, like, you're stressing me out. There's too many places. Please just pick or give me options. So, yeah, I love that. And I have some great friends who are manifesting generators as well. And it helps me,
Mm,
now I understand this, it helps me understand their crisis moments and
yeah,
their crossroads moments. And instead of driving them to make a decision, now I can support them to say, this is just part of how you are supposed to show up in the world.
that's right.
Allow this to unfold and allow yourself to kind of feel into what feels right. So, yeah, I love that.
And like just allowing them to be like super dynamic people. Like, yes, that might be true in bigger ways where it's like they were once doing this and now they're doing this, but it also might mean that like they commit to a gathering a week prior and then the week of they're like, I really don't have the energy for it. And like allowing that to be okay too. Like these people are like ever evolving and very dynamic and incredibly exciting. And so really embracing that. I think what I've really learned with my manifesting generator friends is that like when they are full bodied about a thing, it is the most expansive, wonderful thing to be around. But if they're coming to it out of obligation or desire to please, like it sucks the energy out of a room. It's not what they're meant to be doing. So really kind of making space for what feels full-bodied and true for them and not making them feel guilty for not choosing that.
Oh, I love that. So before we move on, you mentioned that every design type has a way that they are supposed to sort of either take action or respond, right?
Yeah,
So you said that the manifesting generator is better primed and set when something comes towards them
that's
and
right.
then they feel into it and make a decision about it rather than chasing after it. Is that
That's right.
correct?
That is
Before,
correct. You are not really here to go chase after. You're really here to just see what shows up and then what kind of sparks your gut feeling and then trust that. So you're not meant to kind of be at home, be like, what is the next thing that I'm going to initiate out of thin air? It's more like, how can I be in the world doing the things I enjoy, pay attention to what shows up, and kind of trust the spark when it pulls me.
I love that. And I think that's something I need to take from today is that I think I've spent my whole life thinking what's next, creating products, creating courses, and it's exhausting. So maybe actually I should be allowing it to come in rather than me having to be doing that constantly.
Right. It's like some kind of external thing and then an internal spark. That's kind of the sign. And I feel like the role that you're in right now feels like a really beautiful example of that. It feels like that showed up. It felt right. Now you're in it and you like feel like you really have the energy for it. Like that spark that you're waiting for, lets you know what you actually have the energy for. So if you're like, I'm creating a course because I should, it's just, it might be hard to follow through because the energy might not be entirely there for it.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
Okay.
So that is type 1 of 5,
Type
right?
1 of 5.
Where do you want
Okay.
to go next?
Let's go to generators because there's a lot of similarity here. Generators also are very boundless in their energy when they feel genuine excitement by what they're doing. When they feel lit up, it is just like lights up the world around them. But because they're so naturally capable, a big lesson for generators is around boundaries. People can kind of want them to do all kinds of things. They might kind of end up holding so much themselves or trying to do everything themselves. So as a generator, similar to a manifesting generator, I would say, creating space for the things that you really enjoy just because is, again, not a selfish choice. It's the most generous thing you can do for everybody. I would say that generators are kind of meant to wake up pretty energized and excited, kind of use up their energy throughout the day in ways that feel really satisfying and kind of drop into bed delightfully spent. So using your energy well is the key to a satisfying kind of day and life. And then also there's like a very steadfast, masterful kind of step-by-step energy to the generators, really good at kind of bringing ideas to life in a more methodical way. And
Interesting.
and they too are kind of meant to let life come to them and kind of see what naturally sparks their gut feeling.
When you say they're supposed to sort of use up that energy throughout the day, do you mean like physically? Do you mean mentally? Is it a combination of everything? How does that
It's a
show up?
combination of everything. I think it's like mentally, creatively, physically. But again, the question is like when they get into bed at night, does it feel like they've expended it fully? Or does it feel like there's like still more to give? So that's kind of the question of like how can people use it in a fuller way? And it's probably going to be a combination of all those ways.
And they're similar to the manifesting generators. What is like the defining differences between them? Because they definitely sound quite similar.
The defining difference is our generators tend to be a little bit more like, I'm going to dive deep into this one thing and kind of bring it to life a little bit more slowly and just like in a step by step kind of way. Whereas manifesting generators tend to be like, I'm going to dive into many things. I'm going to bring this thing to life very fast. And I might kind of skip some steps along the way. But there is obviously there's so much more nuance underneath it. Like I work with many generators that are very multi-passionate, but for them that looks like I'm going to focus deeply on this one thing and then next day feel like deeply on this one thing, whereas manifesting generators might kind of like to move between many things at once.
Okay, I love it. So they're a little bit more focused. They might be a little bit deeper dive on
Yes.
one thing, but they can still be multi-passionate and
Exactly. And I think the example that I share in my book of the generator is LeBron James, who again is like such an amazing example of somebody who's just achieved a lot of mastery, but also kind of like this passion that's kind of guided him throughout his career, playing basketball for a long time, being the highest scoring player in the NBA. The example that I include for the manifesting generator is The Rock, which is basically like somebody who like achieved a lot of success in wrestling and then like went and became one of the biggest actors and then like also like opened like another company. Like he's just like does so many things and like those are very different kinds of people.
I love it. Those are the
Yeah.
perfect examples.
Yeah.
Okay, what is next? These,
So
because I feel like I know about the ones we've spoken about, but the final three, I'm like, I don't know anything about these. So I'm going to be
so
learning
fun.
along the way.
Okay, so then we've got projectors. Projectors are very natural leaders, guides, advisors, coaches, not here to do all the doing. As projectors, their energy can very naturally ebb and flow. So they really need to kind of build in moments of space and rest and pause into their days. And I think projectors can often get caught up in this pressure of like trying to keep up with all the doing around them. So really allowing and rest and letting it be unproductive. Projectors tend to love systems like human design or astrology because they are so naturally attuned to others, and these systems just amplify that natural sensitivity. And they're really here to be invited into things when it comes to like the biggest opportunities in their life, really paying attention to kind of where people are seeing their value very clearly and really inviting them to share it.
Interesting. So, would you say that these people are more quiet than maybe? I know you can't necessarily define personality traits based off human design, but is it a fair generalization to say that maybe they might sit, they might wait, they might be less noisy and connecting and networking and bringing in opportunities? Do you see that, or is that too much of a generalization?
Well, again, there's so much range within projectors, but like there is a bit more of a subtlety to them, I would say. And they are really here to be invited in. Like they see so much. Like there can be a little bit of a know it all. I am a projector. I know this because there's just so much you want to see and you share and you see how people can improve. But there, it's important to kind of wait to be invited to share it because once somebody's ready, like their guidance can transform. But if they're not ready, it like doesn't often land. So I think that like they often kind of sit back and see so much, and then when we're invited in, it's so much energy is unlocked. The example that I share in my book of the projector is Nelson Mandela, who I think is a really another amazing example of like somebody who commands so much respect, is such an extraordinary leader, but also has like a subtlety and a wisdom around him, you know? And so I think that like that is a true quality of projectors where like they're such natural leaders, so attuned, but yeah, they're kind of waiting for the right moment.
This is so interesting to hear because I've been working with a new consultant recently who's become a big part of what I do. And we're very different. She is not a manifesting generator, but it's really amazing to see how these different types can work together so well. You know, it's like she has this space to think and to process and to synthesize. And then it's over to me and it's to go and do, you know? So it's like
Yes.
interesting to see how different people work together in business. Do you think this
Hmm.
also applies like in friendships, in love? Tell me more.
Everything. I think it's, I think human design is such an amazing tool for our individual alignment to kind of find our flow in every part of our lives. But I think even more than that, it is such an amazing tool to understand the people around us, whether it's who we're dating or married to, whether it's who we're working with, whether it's who we're parenting. I think it reminds us of how different we are. Like, I think with your design, if you're expecting everyone to move at your speed and make things happen like you're probably going to be pretty consistently disappointed. If you appreciate like that others carry a lot of different gifts, like working with somebody that like just has like a perspective on things that really shifts how you approach things and helps you use your energy even more effectively and move it in better directions, like things can be pretty magical. So it is such an amazing tool to understand the people closest to us. And, one example I also think of a projector manifesting generator duo is the manifesting generator was like such a social butterfly, and the projector often loved kind of getting to a party and like going into an intimate corner and having like a deep one-on-one conversation. And so it was so helpful for them to understand their designs because they were like, we're going to arrive together and engage differently, and that's okay. You're not being antisocial, you're not being like too much of a butterfly, like we're just different. So I think whatever the context, it gives us so much permission to just be different and really leverage each other's differences.
I love that. And have you, I mean, this is your area of expertise, right? And you said that you're a mum to two. Do you think this is going to shape how you mother by understanding that your kids are different because we're all different? Is that something you have thought about?
Yeah, I mean, and I work with so many parents, so I see the power of it. I think that my husband is a generator, my toddler is a manifesting generator, and my 7-month-old is a manifester. So we have 4 of the 5 types represented in our home. And so I think I'm kind of entering into this journey of mothering with like no expectation that my kids will be anything like me. And so that's been really fun because like I'm not kind of showing up with them really differently now. I'm more just observing and I already see their design showing up so much. My manifesting generator daughter is like so charismatic and so much energy and like has to use it up every day and like, goes from one thing to the next. And my manifestor daughter is so strong and powerful and also just like needs freedom and is so particular. So I think that I'm more in of an observation mode right now, but it is so useful. An example that I think about is I sat with somebody who was a generator and he had a manifesting generator daughter. And when he came to me, he's like, Erin, I'm so frustrated. My daughter like will not choose one path. She's playing lacrosse, she's playing softball, she's trying volleyball, like she's doing track. Like I just need her to choose a thing and master it, which was his way of doing things. And I was like, she's not doing anything wrong. Like she is exploring her variety in the way that she's meant to. And so I think it's just a small example of what happens when we understand how different somebody is from us.
I love that because now I think about it, I want to go and see what my dad is because he's like
Yeah.
so like did one thing amazingly, committed 40 years of his life to it, made a lot of money, like obsessed with golf, very like one track, whereas I'm like the manifesting generator in the pinball machine.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, so he probably feels the same way. He's probably like, I think initially he probably, because I qualified as a lawyer, right? And I think he was very happy that he felt like, oh, Louise is doing this path. But now I think after all these years, he's seen how much joy it brings me to succeed in lots of different areas and to like journey and build an adventure. So you've inspired me to go and check out everyone around me, including every single family member and my dog.
Totally. It's so funny. I have a story in the book about a dad and his like adult manifesting generator daughter and what happened when it just sounds very similar. But there was like he was just like, why won't you choose a path? You're so flaky, you're trying all these things, but like they were all working, and just there's just something so powerful about being like, oh, this is like they're not wrong for being different.
And let's talk about what happens when, I mean, we've kind of already spoken about this, but like when it's not working, right? Because I think there's this belief today that you're supposed to just commit to something and then you'll just be a success, right? Oh, if you just start posting on social media, like this will happen. Or you just write a book, this will happen. If you just do this, this will happen. And I think inherently, a lot of people find it difficult because they maybe haven't found their thing or it's not working for them yet. And for someone that is listening to this and feeling stuck, do you think that reflecting on their human design can help them maybe understand where that stuckness is coming from, but also where to go next?
Oh yeah. I think that like knowing our design often helps us realize the areas in which we've been trying to be a thing that we're not, and it also helps us be given tools to kind of move out of that stuckness and into a little bit more flow. So yes, it is like such an amazing resource to be like, why is this not working? And like, how can I engage with it differently? Like for me, for you, for example, as a manifesting generator, like you might feel stuck if you're just like sticking with a thing for a while because you think you should, because you committed, because it once lit you up when it no longer does. You might feel stuck if you're just like forcing and creating instead of just like seeing what naturally comes. And I might feel stuck as a projector when I'm like really kind of trying to prove my worth and work with people that don't see me, or if I'm just like overdoing things and not trusting the power of rest. So there are just like so many elements of our design that can reveal why things are not working. And like, even as somebody that's been studying this for 10 years, like I am constantly reminded of, oh, this is why this isn't working. Oh, this is why I could do this thing better. So the learning never stops, but it is
Mm.
such an amazing tool to just help us understand, like, how can we actually do this thing in a way that is sustainable and feels good?
So you said that you need lots of rest, right?
Hmm.
And that's a projector trait.
Yeah, I think that like we all need rest, of
Yeah.
course. I would say the difference here for a manifesting generator is that you probably like the best kind of rest according to your design is when you like fully use up your energy. When you're like, I've like left it all on the table and now I can just like sleep and feel really rested. I think projectors, it's actually really good to kind of like integrate it into our day to day and just take a lot of moments of pause and kind of allow the energy to naturally rise again.
Yeah, you're so right. I feel like I do not pause at all during the day. I mean, definitely a little more now than I used to, but yeah, I really like to go, give it all, put it all on the table, feel that energy coming to the surface and out into the world, and then get into bed at night and have a beautiful dinner, be like, I deserve this. Like I gave everything today, and then get into bed and like rest and then recharge and get up and do it again. So it's interesting to see that rest kind of is a different
It's
integration
different.
for everyone.
Again, all need it. It's just going to look a little bit different. Okay, so then we have manifestors.
Yeah.
Manifestors are very innovative people that are really not, and you might resonate with some of this as a manifesting generator, but manifestors are really here to just like follow their own path and do their own thing. They often don't like kind of emulating what others have done. They tend to be very autonomous, independent. Freedom tends to be a core value, freedom to do what they want, when they want, how they want. These are people that are not really here to be kind of guided or told what to do. They do a little bit better when like they set the terms. And their energy is very bursty. They might have like a couple days, hours, or weeks where they feel super on fire, kind of followed by like days, hours, weeks where they got to like kind of pull back and take rest. And so honoring those natural cycles is so key. They're often really good at starting new things and not necessarily at doing all the doing to keep the thing alive. And so
Mm.
really kind of embracing like what a gift it is to kind of be able to kickstart new ideas and see it not as like a flaky or a failure for not completing everything they start, but just like a natural part of their process. And they're very much here to make the first move. It's not about letting anything to come to them, but kind of just seeing what natural urges rise within them and really following that.
Interesting. So they're probably well suited to working with people that can then pick it up and execute it maybe when the energy of the starting and the doing and the initiating has been done, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And do you find that some types get like they find it hard to work in like a 9 to 5 because 9 to 5s like don't accommodate for different types of people? How do you see that working in practice?
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. And like in such different ways. Like I feel like for manifestors, I see that they often do really well working for themselves, but they can do really well working for companies if they're like given a domain of responsibility to like be in charge of. If they're like, this is your domain, do your thing, let us know how it goes, that can actually work really great for them.
Mm.
So the projectors, yeah, I think kind of being expected to be always on and available can also really burn them out. And so I think for them, like if they're able to kind of have moments of pause and space and rest in their days, it could totally work. I would say for manifesting generators, like as long as there's variety, you know what I mean? As long as every day doesn't look the same. Like I think it's important to kind of feel like you can move in between different things and like days can evolve and you can work from here and work from here and kind of can let it keep changing.
Yeah, that is me. I just love, I've been self-employed since I was 24. And there have been moments when I think, should I go back into a really big role somewhere? But I just don't think like I could, because after a month, I'm kind of thinking about the next thing. So I'm like, no, I think the way that my life is set up right now is good. And I can decide whether I want to go to the gym at 9 or at 2 or at 5, and I can organize like stuff around it. So I think that I would probably struggle in more of a corporate job. But, you know, in life, we also have to do things in the world that we live in. So I think it's about
Totally.
working within the structures that we're within, right? Like
That's right.
maybe someone needs to take a walk during their corporate day or spend some time on their own in a phone booth so they can do XYZ.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's often not going to be a thing where it's like, oh, I can like leave my job tomorrow and create this, but it's more, how can I integrate this in? You know, and as a manifestor, if you're in a job that doesn't allow a lot of freedom, are there ways where you can make sure that like your morning or your evenings, like you can have a little bit more freedom there to kind of remind yourself what it feels like? If you're in a generator that's in a job that doesn't light you up, can you carve out an hour a week where you can kind of do a thing that feels deeply satisfying and kind of remind yourself what it feels like to use your energy in that way?
Oh, I love that. Like maybe it's outside of the workplace. It's
Totally.
like a charity or a hobby or like even friendships, like finding the thing that lights you up outside of
Yes.
that corporate structure, maybe.
Yes. Okay, we've
I,
got one more type.
yes, hit me.
So we've got reflectors, and reflectors are the rarest type. They're about just 1% of the population.
Wow.
And these are people that are kind of our collective mirrors, people that are so sensitive to their physical space, kind of always taking in and magnifying the energy that they're around. So it is so important for them to kind of be in spaces that feel good because that really kind of paves the right path for them, creates the right opportunities. And they're also just really wise, objective people. They can just observe a society or community and space and kind of see what's not working, could be improved. So being in positions where they feel really invited in to share that is so key. And they're also very fluid people. Like they're not really here to find their one purpose. They're here to express themselves in many different ways over the course of their lives, over the course of weeks. So really embracing kind of all their different expressions and not trying to be just one thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So tell me how you came up with the blueprint, because what you've done is so cool, how you can go in and you can submit your time and your date and your place of birth, and you can get this basically like at the click of your fingers, an insight into how different and bio unique we all are. Tell me kind of what led you to being like, yes, this really is something that the world needs to know about.
You know, I think that I was drawn to human design because I came from a number of startups that felt very dysfunctional. I felt like people did not understand each other and therefore didn't know how to work together. And so the first application I saw for human design was around helping teams better understand how to collaborate. And I think that understanding has just, catapulted in so many ways over the years. Of like, oh, it can help couples better understand each other. Oh, like parents can better understand their kids. Oh, like we can realize that a company is not working for us, not because the company's wrong, but because the way that we're approaching it is not authentic to us and not how we're designed to do it. So I think that I pretty immediately was like, if we each understand how different we are, so much is possible. And then I think that the first iteration of my business after kind of focusing on companies was focusing on just private sessions. And I think after a certain point, I realized I couldn't really like scale the information that way. So the blueprint, the guide, the information on the website, that kind of all came from how can we just make this information like super accessible to the masses? How can we make it relatable? How can we make it empowering? How can we make it fun? And so that's kind of been at the core of the business, is really making this accessible to a more mainstream audience because it is a mystical system. And I think it can really alienate people if they're not into stuff like this. And so I think that I also have always taken the approach that like, it doesn't matter to me whether it's true, it matters to me whether it's useful. So like listen to it, see if it helps and it resonates. If so, take it in. If not, let it go. So it's been a wild journey, but I think that I believe that this system can just give us so much permission to be ourselves. And it can validate things we've already felt or lead us to a different path. And I think I've just seen this, like the sense of recognition over and over again in a way that I think is really helpful.
Oh, yeah. And you start with these types, these profiles at the top. I keep calling them the wrong thing. But what I found is like when you go into more of the deep dive analysis, which you would do with you on like a one-to-one session
Yeah,
or with a human design practitioner, you basically get like a little diagram of your body, right? With these like different boxes around it. And what I found through doing that process was that there's like different types within the types, right? So I'm like
totally.
a 3-6 martyr, which means I guide other people through the wisdom I have gained through learning through my own mistakes. When I read that, I was like, holy fuck, that makes so much sense. My whole life has been like so painful and beautiful, but I have really learned the hard way and
Mm-hmm.
then like sharing it onwards. And then there's like other things in here, there's just like so many things that I was like, oh wow, like this makes so much sense as to
Yeah.
why I am the way that I am. And then this other thing that I read basically said, as a 3-6 manifesting generator, there's like 3 phases to my life.
Mm-hmm.
There's like trial by fire, which is like 0 to 30 years old. And like I just said, that was literally what that first part of my life was. And then now the phase I'm in, like 30 plus, is like climbing the roof, where you synthesize everything you've gone through and you kind of observe life from a distance. And that
Yeah.
is exactly what I feel like is happening. I'm like, oh, that had to happen for me to learn this. And then that had to happen for me to learn this. And then for me, the third phase, like 50 plus, is like I become the embodiment of my lived wisdom and everything just like makes sense. And I'm kind of like, oh, can it just all make sense now?
I
But I
know.
also know that's part of life, isn't it? You have to trust in the unfolding. So I guess my question here is for people that are really interested in this, it goes deeper than just these 5 types, right?
So much deeper. Yeah. Type is, again, an amazing piece and also just the first piece. There's so many other pieces that are really useful. I would say another really useful piece is the authority. And
Mm,
that speaks to how we best make decisions. Like for you, for example, you're somebody who's very guttural, like very much meant to trust your visceral feeling, but you're also not somebody who's meant to commit on the spot.
mm.
Some of us are very like instantaneous, really spontaneous. Like you're somebody who really does well by like paying attention to your first instinct and then sleeping on it and see how you feel the next day and the day after. And like that sustained enthusiasm often is the signal that you need that like you actually have the energy for something. I'm going to keep sharing about the other pieces, but curious if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. I think historically, I was very like quick to make
Yeah,
decisions, just, yeah, bam, very fast reactions to everything. And I don't think I do that anymore. And I really think I have learned to slow down and to process. And recently I've become fascinated with intuitive business because I've started to realize how much I use my intuition in business, but how I just thought everyone did that. And so I've been talking about it. It's like crazy that I didn't realize that wasn't something I was doing up until now. So yeah, I really do feel it in my stomach if it's a no. I really
yeah,
just know intuitively. And then I know if it's like let's just sit with this and see what unfolds. And then I also can feel like this is a fuck yes. So is
totally.
that like that sacral experience? Is that something that all the types have or not?
No, that's
Oh,
just the kind of that really strong gut feeling as an experience that generators and manifesting generators have. And then if somebody has what we call a sacral authority, if a sacral is listed next to your authority, you're meant to kind of trust it in the moment. There's no need to wait. But if you're an
mm,
emotional authority like you pay attention to that first instinct and then kind of check back in and see if it stays strong.
interesting. Love
So
it.
it's so endless. The profile piece that you talked about is one of my favorite parts of the chart. Like you said, you're a 3-6. I love the way you described it. But like, yeah, you are somebody who like you learn through experimentation by doing. Like it means that things will be messy, things are gonna fail, but like everything that doesn't work brings you closer to what does. And I would like never underestimate the value of your personal experience. It feels like you already experienced this in your career, even kind of like live streaming your therapy sessions. Like the things you're learning on the way are meant to teach others in such big ways. And I feel like threes often forget that like their
Um,
story, their experience is the lesson, is the wisdom, is what they're meant to share. Gosh, and there's so many pieces. There's a piece of our design where we can speak to kind of, we can explore where we are the most sensitive to other people's energy and taken off track. An example of that for you might be around the fact that you're very sensitive to other people's stress and might find yourself, even though you move fast, sometimes being, applying urgency to anything and everything. So I would say a big lesson for you is like learning how to slow down and not letting urgency be the default. There's a part of our design that speaks to how we best process. You're somebody who's really independent. It's not that you're not meant to talk things out, but you probably don't need to be around others to process in a way that others like might crave that kind of collaboration. You need a lot of space to kind of be in your own uninterrupted flow at work, and having a partner really understand that. Like, yeah.
It's so crazy that you say that, because I was in the gym this morning and I got this like notification from my astrology app, and it said to me, I'm just going to find it because I literally sent it to my boyfriend, and it said, it's just like exactly so spot on with what you're saying. It says, yeah, exactly this. In your long-term relationships, what works best for you is being with a partner who gives you space to find your sacred calling and purpose. They will need to support the space you require for your personal life and make it easier for you to support and pursue your multiple career objectives. Yeah. There's a mutual agreement that the relationship won't always come first. It doesn't mean you don't love them, but your work is a priority and key to your happiness, and you need that space to allow it to unfold. And I'm like, yeah, that is so... You are so spot on, which is awesome because it shows that the chart analysis, you've never even met me before. We've never spoken before today. So it's just, you didn't know me. You didn't know anything about me. And the things you're saying, I'm like, yep. And that is from the chart, right?
I know. And and I think that human design, in my experience, tends to really resonate with really skeptical people because they just don't want to believe it. And then they're like, but everything you're saying resonates so much. So how could you know? I think the last piece that I would share is, there's a piece of our design that also just speaks to our innate strengths, the things that make us. And like, I just hear some of them in the way that you talk. One of them is you have the gift of basically like autonomy. Like, you're just like here to be the boss. Like, you're not really here to have anyone, it doesn't mean you can't work for others, but like you kind of are just here to be in charge. And you're also somebody who's meant to be so charismatic and needs lots of space to kind of, even if you work with and for others, to kind of be in your own uninterrupted flow, to kind of close the door, like shut off the notifications, because when you do that, you can like create so much so fast. And you're also really here to like follow your convictions. Like, when you really feel convicted about something, like you can weather any storm. Your perseverance is like unmatched. And it's really, people around you may not understand that. And that's not the point. It's just kind of trusting your gut to know which convictions to follow.
Oh, so much to say. Yeah. Like everyone listening, well, my frequent listeners will know that I'm thinking about coming to a pause on the podcast for many different reasons. And that makes sense with what we've spoken about today, the nonlinear evolution and the energies and the cycles and the feeling in the gut when I just know that it's time to look somewhere else or feel somewhere else. But my boyfriend, he thinks I'm crazy. He's just like, you have built one of the biggest podcasts in the world. It is a great source of income. Like, you are crazy. And he says it so lovely and respectfully, but like, you're crazy that you would just close that down and then 180 to somewhere else. But now I can use this example in my chart to explain to him, it's just, I feel it in my body. And if I don't listen and honor those feelings and that intuition and my internal experience as a manifesting generator, as all of these things, it's just going to lead to me feeling frustrated and burnt out. So you have kind of been a nod to the evolution of, I feel like, where I'm going. And even though other people don't understand that, and sometimes even I don't understand that, what I will say is the last month looking into this and speaking with you, I feel seen and guided and supported. So I really hope that everyone else listening today will feel that if they go and do this analysis themselves. So tell me a little bit more about, where people can do this. If it's the best place to start is with the blueprint, if the best place to start is with the book, tell me more.
Okay. So, our offerings are so complementary. I would say that if you go to our website, we do sell these hyper-personalized guides to your design, just so you guys know how custom these are. There are 400,000 possible variations of the guide. Crazy. And you guys, that's at humandesignblueprint.com/guide. You can use the discount code HealingHoneys. And that basically just kind of walks you through all the most important parts of your chart, all the things we talked about today and way more. The book that I wrote is called How Do You Choose a Human Design Guide to What's Best for You at Work and Love and in Life. It is focused very specifically on how human design can be practically applied to every area of your life, to careers, to relationships, to parenting. It's meant to be a real-time decision-making guide. So if you're at a moment like, should I, take a pause from the podcast? Should I take this job? Should I move cities? It's meant to be a resource you can open to and be like, this is exactly what I meant to do. Not because it will tell you go move to London, but more because like it will remind you how to make that decision for yourself. And so if you're curious to kind of actually know how to use this system to better understand everyone in your life and to kind of make decisions in a way that you can really trust every single time, big and small, it's a great resource for that.
Oh, I love it. We're going to link all of that in the show notes. And the reason that I'm smiling is because you said, oh, you don't necessarily have to move to London. And I'm like, but that's the other thing that I'm working through.
No way.
Yeah. Like, I'm from London. I never thought I would move back there. And this project is calling me back. And that it just feels in my body, okay, maybe I should be spending some more time back home. Maybe I should consider a move back home. So crazy because you didn't even know where I am
Well, I
or
actually felt like a little bit silly saying that because I was like, I feel like she said she like was born in London. Why would I mention that? She like probably is already there. So I love that that was.
intuitive.
Mm.
Amazing. Oh, so as we come to wrap up, is there anything else you feel like we haven't covered or that people listening might be thinking? Any other thoughts?
I guess my reminders are, whether or not you choose to dive deeper into human design, I think it offers us such a powerful reminder that we're all like wired so differently. And so just considering whether there's any area of your life where you're like trying to do business like somebody else or trying to parent like somebody else or expecting your partner to make decisions as fast as you or whatever the thing is, just, having human design give you a little bit of empathy and compassion towards yourself or others that we're all designed differently and life becomes a bit easier when we really honor that and kind of go with our mechanics and not against them. And also just saying if you are a skeptic and I'm sure there are many, again, what matters most to me is not whether this is true but whether it's useful. And
Yeah.
so if you feel at all inspired, like dig in. If it feels useful, great. If it doesn't, let it go. So not kind of holding back from exploring this if you feel drawn, because I too am blown away that we could ever know this much information based on our birth time. And yet I've just seen it be so undeniably helpful for people. And that's why I keep doing it.
I love that. And yeah, I don't think there's that many skeptics that listen to my podcast.
Maybe not in your podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, millions of very open-minded, amazing women. So I'm so excited for everyone listening to go and do that blueprint. Go and get your personalized blueprint. Like, what an amazing way to understand yourself and maybe
Yeah.
support the next chapter of your evolution. I know that there's been so many times when I've looked at people around me, whether it's boyfriend or parents or friends, to try and give me an answer to like what to do next. But the truth is, like, the answers lie inside of us. And the more that we understand ourselves, the closer we can get to being able to sort of see what comes next in our unique, beautiful path. But thank you so much. I've so enjoyed talking with you. This has been so fun. And it's on conversations like this that I'm like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't close down the podcast because I so enjoy it. But yeah, I think it's just been amazing. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Everything will be linked in the show notes. And congratulations on the book. That must be such an amazing third child to bring to life.
Totally. Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure.
Amazing. I'll speak to you soon. Thank you so much.